What's going on, everybody? The Diehard MMA Podcast was filmed live and exclusively on odds.com. So if you missed the live show, click the link below. It'll take you over to odds.com where you can watch the exclusive replay where we go over UFC 255 and all the betting action, our favorite spots with special guest Matt Holt from US Integrities. Thank you very much. Share this link out, and we'll see you guys over on odds.com.
The second fight on the card, we've got a middleweight fight. Kyle Daukaus, 9-1, taking on Dustin Stoltzfus, and he is 13-1. Kyle just recently promoted to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt by his brother, the bigger Daukaus, I believe. Another one of my favorite fighters. And in this spot, like we talked about, the A-side, B-side brothers, I think Kyle is the B-side brother. I think the heavyweight Daukaus is the one that's got a little bit more upside to him, but he's got a 6 submission game on him. Kyle came in and his only loss was a scramble fest to Brendan Allen, which is a really, really tough out for early in your career here in the UFC. He's tall, he's long, his striking is definitely a work in progress, but his ground game is sharp and he's willing to dive on submissions. He defends with, guillotine chokes and stuff like that when people go in for takedowns. He sells out for that choke sometimes and ends up on bottom because of it, which is something I kind of find a little bit of a red flag. I think wrestlers can take advantage of that if he gets the right opponent, but he's really good at scrambling too. So even if he does end up on his back, sometimes he tries to find a way to reverse it and get on top. He's always looking for the finish, this guy. I like Kyle. I like what he brings to the cage. His opponent, Dustin, really offensively strong grappling, wrestling, his main point of attack, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt. So one of these guys that, man, I've done some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training, Matt, and let me tell you, when you get a high-level wrestler and you teach them just a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu, they're a pain in the ass because they get on top of you. They are heavy. They're strong, you can't budge them, and they know just enough submission defense to stop you from doing anything to them. It's awful to be under these kinds of fighters. And he's got a nice high, tight guard on the feet, keeps himself really safe. He has these nice little check hooks that he throws, big clinch knees. And honestly, this guy has been tested. I've seen him take some big shots in there, and his chin is held up. He's been able to walk through it and basically survive the fire and come get a finish. And he's another submission specialist. He has twisters on his record, which, you've got to being able to pull off something like a twister in an MMA fight. That's really hard to do. We've only seen like 3 of them in the UFC ever. So this is a spot that honestly, I almost feel like is dog or pass. I feel like this line is way too wide, and I'd love to hear your thoughts here.
So as much as you thought Koski was one of those guys that potentially you could put into parlays or even make a play on, I think Daukaus might be that guy. I was more impressed with the loss to Brandon Allen than a lot of people were. I thought his jab was crisp. I mean, he was certainly losing the stand-up, and he got hit with one monster shot. But to his credit, he withstood the barrage that came after that shot. And in the third round, he was putting heavy, heavy pressure on Brandon Allen to potentially get a finish and a rear naked choke there in the third round and win that fight. And I wonder, first of all, I don't even think they would have made this fight had he have choked out Brendan Allen. He'd probably be getting a fringe top 15 guy. I think this is actually a big step back in class for him after that Brandon Allen loss. And on the other side of it, we get a guy who's mostly fought in Germany, Stoltzfus. I mean, some of his fights were actually in We Love MMA organization. I love MMA too, but that doesn't mean I should start an organization. He comes from a gym that's not known for producing any type of elite fighters. His one UFC win, which was a Dana White Contender Series win, he won because his opponent was injured in the first round, and he's giving up 4 inches in height and significant reach. My gut feeling is he really only has one way to win this fight, and that is to get takedowns and end up on top of Kyle Daukaus and outwork him. Because I think Daukaus is tough. He proved that against Kyle Allen. Both times he stepped up in class, Daukaus, his fights ended up going the distance. This one sort of feels like it has go the distance written all over it. I'm not quite ready to pull the trigger on Daukaus here, but I do think that there's going to be an opportunity, depending on what the totals end up coming out later today at, that I could be on the over here. And I'm looking
Okay.
at this one right now. So let's look at this total now that they're up.
Yeah, over 2.5. It looks like minus 125.
Minus
And
120. Yeah,
I
so I'm
think
going to be on that.
that's a nice little look. I like that. I mean, kind of like you mentioned, he was cruising to the over in those kinds of situations, and with Dustin's wrestling background, his ability to stay safe, defend the submission, we could get a very grindy, grapple heavy type of fight. I like that. I like the look on the over there. All right. Personally for me, like I said, I feel like the line is just a little bit wide. I totally understand where you're coming from. I don't think I'm actually going to bet Dustin, but it's one of those spots where I could see him grinding out a 15-minute win, and it's enough to keep me off of doing anything with Kyle.
Yeah, I think I'm just betting the over. Now that I see minus 120, I thought it was going to come out in the minus 160 range. I really like it. I mean, both times Daukaus stepped up in class, whether it was Brandon Allen, which he lost a decision, or Michael Lombardo, who he fought on Dana White Contender Series and won a decision. It's gone the distance. When he steps up in class, Daukaus, it tends to go the distance. And he is a tough kid, and he's a big, strong, tough kid. 6'3", and looks strong for 185. I think this one's going to end up seeing the judges' scorecard.
I like it. I like it. That's a nice little early look we got going here.